What's up, Norberg Nation? How's it going? As I've continued to post on this channel, I realized that not all of the information I'm giving you guys applies to everybody. Some of you guys drive much lower horsepower carts like an LO206, a K100, and don't necessarily drive the X30 that I do. Or some of you guys drive even faster stuff like a shifter. So a lot of the advice that I give you guys doesn't necessarily apply directly to you. Now, because of that, I get a lot of questions about how I would drive an LO206 or how I would drive a K100 or even how I would drive a shifter. And even though I don't have a lot of experience in those classes, I have driven those carts and I've been pretty fast in them as well. So I feel like today would be a good time to give you guys my opinion on how I would drive those carts. But instead of going through each class individually, I'm just gonna break it up into 3 sections: low, medium, and high horsepower go-karts. So let's break down each one of those engine packages. So for a lower horsepower cart like an LO206 or a Mini Swift or even a K100, you want to focus on keeping your rolling speed high. This is the major thing when dealing with a low horsepower go-kart. The biggest issue you run into is because you don't have a lot of horsepower, your acceleration isn't going to be as fast as it would be in an X30 Senior or even in a shifter. You have to keep your minimum speed up so that when you accelerate off the corner, you actually have some power. If you run too low of a minimum speed, you're not going to be able to get to the power when you get to the throttle on the exit of the corner. So how do you do that? Okay, so we're over at the whiteboard again. I don't want to hear anything about my, artistic abilities. I'm trying my best. This is my best rendition of a racetrack. But basically, I'm going to go through what I think each racing line, where I would brake, and where I'd accelerate in this hypothetical racetrack on these hypothetical low horsepower carts, medium speed horsepower carts and higher horsepower carts. And I'm going to change that color just so you guys can see exactly, the differences between the different racing lines and the different, lines I would choose if I'm in this certain kind of cart. So first we'll start with a lower horsepower cart. That's going to be this blue line here. And so basically the way I would attack this and approach this is as we're heading into the corner here, in this lower horsepower cart, right about here, that's going to be our braking zone, right? So this is where we're going to start braking for the corner. As we brake for this corner, again, it's still a high intensity brake. We're not braking, soft just because we're in a lower horsepower cart. We're still braking relatively hard. Our first impact is still going to be a hard impact. But the difference is we're going to brake for this little period right here, right? And then as we start to bleed off the brakes, we're going to bleed off of them relatively early as we head into the corner. The difference is the racing line that we're going to take. When we're in a faster cart, we're going to be a lot sharper with our lines, a lot shallower. With this cart, a lower horsepower cart, the line is going to be a lot more of a U. So as we come into the corner, we're going to make a big, sweeping line like this as we get down to our apex. Now, we broke for the corner, we bled off the brakes relatively soon. Again, the whole point of that is to keep our rolling speed up. When we're in a faster cart, we can sacrifice rolling speed because we have the power. We can use the power on the exit of the corner. But when we're in a lower horsepower cart, we have to keep the power up. We have to keep our speed up so that when we get back to the throttle, we actually have power off the corner and we're not just gonna bog off the corner. So we've done that. We've broken for the corner. We didn't brake, too much. We didn't overslow the cart. We use a wider line as we got into the corner because that input is going to slow the cart down. Anytime you turn the steering wheel, any more than you need to, that's extra time. You're going to be slowing the cart down. So in a low horsepower cart, we don't want to turn the wheel that much. We want to stay relatively smooth. Okay, so now we've done this wider line. The difference now on the acceleration is on a lower horsepower cart, we're going to accelerate, relatively early. This is our apex right about here. We're going to start accelerating relatively early in this cart. So we'll put gas right here because we need to get back to the power. We need to get the power going again. Again, if we stay too long off the throttle, we're going to lose power on the exit. And even though on the exit of the corner when we're accelerating, we're still turning, we haven't finished the corner. When you're on the gas in these lower horsepower carts, there's not necessarily enough power there to really create a lot of wheel spin. So you can kind of cheat it by getting on the gas a little bit earlier. It also helps stay in the power a little bit, keeps your RPMs up, and you'll come off the corner with some speed, with some power. And yeah, you'll do a little bit better by doing this, keeping your speed up, rolling more speed. It's definitely what you do in a lower horsepower kart. You have to focus on rolling speed, and you have to try and focus on making your line a little bit wider than you would in a faster go-kart. And then again, on the exit, we're using all the racetrack. We're getting on the gas relatively early, and we're still going to be turning while we're on the gas on the exit of the corner. But yeah, that's the whole point of lower horsepower kart. Try and keep your speed up and stay within the power. And like I said, the driving style really depends on how fast that lower horsepower kart is. An LO206, you're going to be on one side of the spectrum, where a K100 Senior is going to be on the other side of the spectrum. Even though they're both somewhat considered lower horsepower engines, they definitely do have a very similar driving style in my opinion. Now let's move into a little bit of a faster engine. These are those mid horsepower karts, your X30 Seniors, Rotax Seniors, your Rock Seniors. These are all those engines that are 125cc that have a little bit more oomph off the corner. Now with a medium horsepower kart, things change a little bit. So let's get back to this. As we enter the corner, obviously we're on the same line. We're gonna brake, depending on how much faster you are. It depends on the class, right? Obviously, if you're on the senior class, you got yellow tires, so you can brake a little bit deeper, blah, blah, blah. We're gonna brake, let's say, at the same spot. Let's just call it here, we brake at the exact same spot with the higher horsepower kart, the faster kart. The difference is from this point on, again, we're going to hit the brakes very hard, but the difference is that this braking zone is going to carry into the corner to right about here, right? So we're going to be braking through the corner all the way to this point right about here. You can already tell where I'm going with my racing line, but the line is also a little bit tighter in an X30 in a faster go-kart, because again, you can sacrifice a little bit by slowing the kart up more to make a more efficient, tighter line around the racetrack. So in the X30, you're going to be braking for this corner. You're going to get to this point right about here. And this is, we're still going to be braking as we head into the corner. This is where we're trailing off the brakes. In the LO206, a lower horsepower kart, and we're just going to kind of roll the kart into the center of the corner and not necessarily focus on keeping that weight on the nose of the go-kart. But in a faster kart, you need the weight on the nose of the go-kart. So we're still going to be trailing, and I'll put trail right here. We're going to be trailing the brake into the center of the corner. And as we get to this point right about here, you see the lines a little bit tighter. It's going to be a little bit tighter through the center of the corner because you can. You don't have to worry about, slowing the go-kart down too much. And like I spoke about earlier, when we're turning the steering wheel, you're going to have to turn the steering wheel a bit harder. That's going to slow the kart down a bit more. But it's okay. We have the power. You have to utilize that power. Make the track a little bit shorter and utilize the power that you've been given. And so as we get to the center of the corner, if we were to get on the gas right here, right where we would with a lower horsepower kart, the kart is just going to shoot wide and we're going to run out of racetrack on the exit of the corner. So if we want to keep this same exit and the same tight line, we have to move our acceleration point a little bit further into the corner. So the difference is as we get to this point right here, we're probably going to accelerate right about here. And this is where you would in a faster kart, because now what's going to happen is you're going to be able to follow that same line on the exit of the corner that you would in a lower horsepower kart. The difference is you went into the corner a lot faster, you slowed the kart down a lot more in the middle of the corner, but again, you have the power on the exit of the corner. It doesn't really matter because when you got back to the power, you had power and you were able to get on the gas relatively straight. You minimize the slide that you got off the corner by getting on the gas a little bit later. You didn't have to use all the racetrack on the exit of the corner. That's a very successful, medium 125 single speed kart through the corner. But again, the key focus is there. We're braking hard in the corner. We're trailing the brakes down to the apex. We get to the apex and then we wait a little bit and then accelerate later than we would in a lower horsepower kart, a little bit later on the exit of the corner. So the kart's nice and straight and you're not creating a lot of slip on the exit of the corner. Now, as we go into the faster class, which would basically be a shifter, there's not much faster in the go-kart world. Maybe in the future they'll come out with something that's a little bit faster, but for now the shifter is obviously the fastest kart around a go-kart track. Now, speaking with other shifter drivers, your driving style does vary depending on what shifter you're driving. A KZ is much faster than a stock Honda, so your driving style will change a little bit, but your driving style is a lot different than it would be in a 125cc single speed kart. Now we are getting to the high speed, high horsepower karts. These are your shifter karts, and obviously, again, like I said earlier, there's a lot of variables that go into this, but again, we're going to try and keep it as simple as possible. But in a higher horsepower kart, The shifter, the difference is with this is because you have that power, I keep saying it, because you have the power, you can sacrifice your rolling speed through the center of the corner and make the corner as efficient and as tight as possible. And so in a shifter, basically what you're going to do is, let's say, again, as we head into the corner, we're still going to brake in the same spot of all of these other carts. We're not going to, get into different tires, front brakes, rear brakes, how fast you're going to the corner. Let's just say we all brake at the same exact spot. The difference with a shifter is we're going to be braking all the way down to this point, right around there. Obviously, there's a lot that's going into that. You're going into the corner a lot faster. But another point that you need to notice is because you're entering at this much shallower line, you don't have the ability to roll all that speed through the center of the corner, because what's going to happen is you're going to come through this part of the corner and the cart's just going to wash out super wide. So we have to slow the cart down a lot more because we're making the corner so much tighter. So as we brake for the corner, you brake very, very hard, very intense in a shifter. You got your gears, you got everything that's helping you slow down. You're still, trailing off the brakes a little bit as you get to the apex. The difference is here is, again, if we were to get on the gas in a lower horsepower kart spot, where the lower horsepower karts get, we're going to run off the racetrack, because as soon as we get to the gas, we have power, the kart's going to slide, it's going to shoot us off the racetrack. Even if we get to the gas where we do in a 125 single speed kart, the kart again is going to want to shoot just straight out like that, and we're going to end up wide. In a shifter, you want to keep the kart straight on the edges of the corner, because if you don't, the wheels are going to slide and you're going to be putting down power just not where you need to be going. You're not going to be going in a straight line. You're not going to be putting down the power and ripping off the corner. You're just going to be putting it in and just sliding off the corner and getting a ton of wheel spin. So we get to the center of the corner and we're just going to hug that corner all the way around, and then most likely you're going to accelerate almost after the corner. Depends on the corner, obviously. I'm not the greatest shifter driver. I'm not saying I am. But because of that, you're going to be getting to the gas, relatively late, and that is just all because of the power. You have power, so you can, again, make a much tighter, more efficient line. And that's basically the difference between these, engine packages, is the faster you go, the tighter line you can run. The faster you can go into the corner, the tighter you can go into the corner, and then the later you get on the gas. And that's all because if you have more horsepower, you can run a tighter line, because you can sacrifice that minimum speed, because as soon as you get to the gas, you're going to have some power. Now, obviously that varies from a 125cc to a shifter. It varies where you're going to get on the gas. But the difference is the lower horsepower karts, you have to make more of a U of a racing line, and the faster you go, the more tight your line gets and the more of a V the line starts to become. So there you have it. Those are the 3 different racing styles that I'll use depending on what horsepower go-kart I will be driving. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. If you want to get some Norbert Nation merch for yourself, please make sure to click the link down below. Make sure to follow me on my Instagram, my Facebook, and my TikTok. I post a lot of awesome racing content on there as well, so make sure to follow all of those. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.